The class monitor was a master of cutting it close. If she could arrive just in time, she would never be early. Before the college entrance exam, she arranged for a bus and insisted that it depart exactly according to her schedule. In my past life, I checked the weather forecast and saw that it would rain heavily on exam day, so I urged everyone to get up early and leave early. That was the only way we barely made it to the exam on time. But on the night of the graduation party, the monitor got dead drunk and accused me. I carefully planned the schedule for everyone just so you could rest a bit more. But you wanted to show off and made everyone rush through the rain, causing them to perform poorly on the exam. Even my childhood friend turned around and blamed me for being selfish. A video of the incident was taken out of context and posted online, and I was cyberbullied to death. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day the monitor was booking the bus to depart from the school gate at exactly 8 o'clock sharp. "Just make sure your side is ready," she said to the person on the other end, without waiting for the driver to respond. The class monitor, Lu Shuyao, hung up the phone and scanned the class condescendingly. "It's settled. Gather at the school gate at 8 a.m. on June 7th, and we'll all take the bus to the exam venue. Everyone should stay in the school dormitory during this time, so no one is late, and holds the whole class back." As she spoke, she gave me a subtle glance. True enough, I was usually the only one who didn't go along with her management. This was a veiled jab, but I ignored her, lowering my head, without a word. In the corner, a boy hesitated and raised his hand. "Class monitor, isn't 8 a.m. bit late if the exam starts at 9 o'clock? And if traffic gets jammed on the way?" Before he could finish, the classroom suddenly fell silent. Lu Xiao gave him a quick glance and didn't respond. Seeing that no one seemed to care, the boy shot up from his seat in a panic. "There's going to be a heavy rain that day, starting in the morning. If leave at 8 o'clock, there won't be time. The roads might be completely clogged." Seeing him insist, Lu Suyuan paused mid-step. Before she could speak, her childhood friend, Su Yan, frowned first. "What do you know?" The boy's face turned pale, but he still braced himself to explain. "Just to be cautious. Patience wearing thin." Lu Suyuan slapped the notebook on the table, her voice suddenly rising half a tone. "What's the most important thing the day before the college entrance exam? It's rest. Let the students sleep a little longer, recharge their energy, so they'll be in the right state when they get to the exam hall. You want them to get up at 6 o'clock, leave at 6:30, arrive at the exam hall at 7 o'clock, and then stand at the gate for 2 hours. They'll be exhausted from standing. And then what's the point of taking the exam?" After hearing this, the boy frowned and couldn't utter a single word. The classroom fell silent for a moment. A few seconds later, someone couldn't help but quietly chime in. "Yeah, 8 o'clock is about right. Going too early is useless. Lu Siyuan's arrangement is pretty reasonable. She's always been a master of timing." With so many people siding with Lu Siyuan, the boy quickly turned red in the face with anxiety. "But the weather forecast did say." "When has the weather forecast ever been accurate?" Suyan cut him off coldly. The boy choked on his words and didn't continue. Lu Siyuan, however, didn't let him off. On the surface, she was speaking to the boy, but in reality, she glanced at me, with her arms crossed, her words dripping with sarcasm. "Some people just can't stand to see others do well. I've worked hard to arrange everyone's schedule, book the bus, coordinate the route. Even the driver was found, with my uncle's help. And then there are those who, with just a flip of their tongue, want me to change the time." With that, she couldn't help but let out a sneer. "I've been class monitor for 3 years. Which event wasn't organized by me? Has anything ever gone wrong? The whole class trusts me, but you're the exception." The classroom fell into dead silence, and the boy quietly sat down, without arguing further. I knew none of them dared to go against Lu Suyao. She had a history of bullying others back then. Just because someone had crossed her, she used her connections to have them expelled. Seeing everyone quiet down, Lu Suyao smiled again, picked up the notebook, and patted it. Her tone was light. "All right, it's settled. We'll depart at 8 o'clock. If anyone thinks it's not okay, they can go on their own. No one's stopping you. Song Wei, don't you agree?" Meeting her mocking gaze, I smiled. and nodded along. The class monitor is right. Rest is the most important thing. Unexpectedly, I went along, with her wishes this time. She looked at me suspiciously. Why aren't you putting up a fight today? I curled my lips, but said nothing. Why didn't I argue? In my past life, on the day she contacted the bus company, I went to fight for it, telling everyone that there would be a heavy rainstorm that day. I even showed the weather forecast, and 90% probability of precipitation, with rainfall from 6 to 9 o'clock in the morning, and it coincided with the morning rush hour, with a red traffic warning. I reasoned with them, appealed to their emotions, and even brought in the homeroom teacher. The teacher made the final call, moving the departure time half an hour earlier from 8 to 7:30. The classmates were all quite unhappy, and kept making sarcastic remarks to me all day until the day of the college entrance exam. It really did pour. When we set off at 7:30, the sky was still dark, and the wet roads were slippery, making accidents more likely. The bus couldn't go fast, and we got stuck in traffic for a full 20 minutes. By the time the bus arrived at the exam site, it was just barely in time for entry. Everyone was still shaken, and their attitudes completely changed as they thanked me, and no one was significantly late. I thought I had done a good deed, but on the day the exam results came out, the class average was 40 points lower than in our mock exams. Seeing the scores on the screen, some people burst into tears, while others glared at me with hostility, but it was clearly their own fault for not reviewing properly, and they all knew how inflated their mock exam scores were. Confused and unsure what was happening, I watched as Lu Suyao raised her glass and splashed it straight at me, malice gleaming in her eyes. I carefully planned everyone's schedule. I just wanted everyone to get some rest and perform well in the exam. But some people, just to show off, made everyone rush through the rainstorm and ruin their college entrance exams. The alcohol soaked my clothes before I could dodge, and I shivered all over. Before I could react, she slapped me across the face and slammed the glass onto the table. I've been class monitor for 3 years. When have I not considered your interests? When have I not run around for you? What difference does it make if you show up half an hour early every day? My face stung fiercely as I stared at her in disbelief. I had always known she disliked me, and I understood her motive for doing this. She was afraid that others would blame her, so she wanted a scapegoat. Unfortunately, everyone fell for it, letting her steer the narrative. Their gazes toward me gradually turned strange. Yeah, that day I kept yawning. While taking the test, I didn't sleep well the night before, either, afraid of oversleeping. Actually, my mock exam scores are usually higher than this. Accusations came at me one after another. Suyin sat next to Lu Suyao and remained silent throughout. I instinctively wanted to seek his help, but as the gathering was about to end, he only turned his head to glance at me, his eyes full of disgust. A selfish woman like you deserves to die. Even Suyin, who grew up with me, said that. So, the others cursed even more harshly. Among the more than 40 classmates, not a single person stood up to speak for me. Some chimed in, some nodded, and some lowered their heads to eat, pretending not to hear. Furious, I left on the spot, but I never expected that the next day the video would be uploaded online. It was edited, with the beginning, and then cut off, leaving only the clips of Lu Xia crying and smashing her glass, and the classmates sitting in silence. The headline was even more sensational. Changed the class monitor's arrangement before the college entrance exam, causing the entire class to underperform. The college entrance exam is already a hot topic, and this incident quickly stirred up a storm online. Clicking on any video, all you could see were insults. Does someone like this deserve to take the exam? Selfish to the bone. Suggest doxing her. Soon, someone dug up my name, school, and home address. Some even placed a funeral wreath at my doorstep. That wasn't enough. Someone called my dad's phone and cursed. The thing you raised, born from an animal, isn't human. I suffered unprecedented online bullying. During that time, I didn't even dare to go out. No matter how many phone numbers I changed, they would always find me, flooding my inbox with messages telling me to die. Later, I fell into depression. One night, I jumped from a building over 10 stories high, A sharp pain shot through my internal organs, spreading to every limb and bone. With a loud thud as I hit the ground, a thick metallic taste of blood surged into my mouth. Thinking of this, hatred spread through my heart. Pulling myself back to the present, I looked at the people in front of me. They were still fawning over Lucia, saying she had arranged everything reasonably. Lucia stood proudly, with her arms crossed, a faint smile curling at the corner of her lips. I sat expressionless in my seat, but inside, I couldn't help sneering coldly. Reasonable. Is it? Then let them wait for their lives to be completely ruined. I didn't argue with them that day. That evening, I booked a taxi and set off at 7 o'clock. The driver accepted the order quickly and kindly sent a message. There was a heavy rain that day, so I'll arrive a bit early. After thanking him, I devoted myself entirely to studying. A few days passed in the blink of an eye. On the day of the college entrance exam, I woke up at 5 a.m. washed up, checked my admission ticket, and had breakfast at 6:50. I walked out of the school gate on time, holding an umbrella. The sky was overcast, and it was still dark even as it approached 7 o'clock. Several buses were parked at the school gate, and students from other classes were boarding one after another. I stood on the steps and took a quick look around, but couldn't find our class's bus. The taxi driver had already arrived. Just as I was about to fold my umbrella and get in, a familiar voice sounded from behind me. Song Wei. I froze for a moment and turned around. The homeroom teacher was just coming out of the school, holding a roster in her hand. Seeing that I was the only one standing in the rain, she paused. Where are the rest of our class? The other classes are all about to set off. Why isn't anyone from our class here yet? I glanced down at my watch and couldn't help but curl my lips slightly. They booked the 8 o'clock bus. Hearing this, the teacher's face suddenly turned pale. I immediately understood, judging by her reaction. She must not have known the homeroom teacher was always a bit careless, and although the school had reminded everyone to set off early, she never imagined in a million years that they would choose the 8 o'clock bus. Growling, "Don't even know what it is." The homeroom teacher didn't have time to say more to me. She took the roster under her arm, turned around, and ran toward the dormitory building. Watching her hurried back, I let out a soft laugh, turned straight around, and sat into the taxi. Let's go. Since we set out quite early, there weren't many cars on the road yet, but the rain kept getting heavier, and the car was moving much slower than usual. We even got stuck at an intersection for 10 minutes. The driver glanced at me apologetically. "Mississippi, there's a rear-end collision up ahead." I shook my head, with a smile, and glanced at my phone. Only 7:20. Still early. We quickly passed that intersection, and just ahead was the exam center. The taxi turned into the road where the exam center was located. I looked up and saw a row of blue canopies set up at the school gate, already crowded with people. The rain was pouring heavily, so I also took shelter under the canopy. Beside me, a girl was memorizing good words and phrases for Chinese, her lips moving rapidly, but her eyes kept darting toward the school gate. Following her gaze, I saw buses arriving one after another at the gate. As the doors opened, groups of test takers poured out. There were quite a few familiar faces, but none from my class. It's still early, so they're probably still lying comfortably in bed resting. Just as I was thinking this, the exam hall's gate opened early, and the test takers all crowded in line to go in. I followed them inside, and found my seat more than 10 minutes later. I glanced at the clock on the wall. 8:15. I had already taken the college entrance exam once in my previous life, so doing it again wasn't much of a challenge for me. I reviewed the key knowledge in my mind once more, calming my heartbeat. Just as I finished my review, the exam bell rang. Everyone lowered their heads and began writing furiously, and I was no exception. Just as I was getting into the groove, a burst of hurried footsteps came from the hallway, accompanied by soft sobbing. I looked up and met a familiar face. She was a girl from my class, also a loyal supporter of Lu Siyuan, and she was in the same exam hall as me. My heart sank a little as I sized her up. She must have run in without an umbrella just now, her entire body soaked through tears and rain mingling together, looking utterly disheveled. The other test takers also gasped. Once 15 minutes had passed since the start of the exam. No one was allowed in, and she had just made it at exactly 14 minutes. The proctor said nothing and let her in. She staggered to her seat, fumbling to open her pencil case, which wasted another 2 minutes. She was almost in tears, but she pulled out a pen and started answering the questions. I glanced at the clock on the wall. The Chinese exam, for this college entrance exam, had a heavy workload, and she had wasted over 10 minutes, making it impossible to finish. Sure enough, when she reached the essay section, her pace noticeably slowed down, even from a distance. I could vaguely see that her handwriting was becoming messy. But time waits for no one. The moment the bell rang, she still had several hundred words left to write. With the essay paper blank, her breathing involuntarily grew heavier. Stop writing. All candidates. Stop writing. Sweat beaded on her forehead, and her hand moved even faster. That student. Stop writing. The invigilator frowned and barked a reprimand, walking straight over to pull her exam paper away. Watching the paper that would decide her fate and future being taken away, the girl couldn't help but choke out a sob. Teacher, I haven't finished my essay. But the bell had already rung, and the exam hall would not offer anyone an unfair chance. The invigilator turned and went straight back to the podium. The exam was already difficult, and her crying only made her more annoying. Someone in the back couldn't help but mutter softly, "What's there to cry about?" Another hushed voice followed. Exactly. Who told her to come so late? Seriously, it's the June college entrance exam. With heavy rain. Didn't her mom wake her up earlier? Listening to the faint murmurs of discussion, she cried even harder. I let out a silent chuckle, glancing at my own answer sheet on the desk. Not bad. Completely filled. After checking the exam paper, the teacher dismissed us from the exam hall. 2 hours had passed, and the rain outside had lightened considerably. Along the way, I ran into quite a few people, several of whom were from my class, their faces growing uglier by the minute. Without even guessing, I could tell none of them had finished writing, each looking utterly dejected. Some, with a better mindset, could still manage a bitter smile, while those, with a worse one, simply broke down crying at the exam hall entrance. Seeing this, Lucia forced a smile and moved through the crowd to comfort others. I didn't finish my essay in the last mock exam, either, and I only lost 8 points in the end. She spoke sincerely, and upon hearing this, someone looked up at her, with a hint of doubt in their eyes. A girls from the neighboring class, known for their big mouths, covered their mouths and laughed at the sight. She can still comfort herself at a time like this. Hilarious. That's the class, right? Yeah, that's them. Not taking the college entrance exam seriously. Problem with their thinking. Problem with their brains. Right. Sarcastic remarks came flooding in, and the faces of the students turned red and pale by turns. Lucia's face also flushed bright red. The news that the entire class was late spread quickly among the crowd, and more onlookers gathered, especially the 2 girls from the neighboring class, whose words were particularly venomous. Set off at 8 o'clock. Are you here for the college entrance exam or a sightseeing trip? And you're cutting it close for the exam. Are you cutting it close? With your brains? Where are all your brains? Already feeling down about the poor exam results. Being publicly ridiculed like this made the students' eyes red like rabbits, but they dared not speak out in anger, clenching their fists tightly, without uttering a word. Seeing the whole class caught in such a predicament, Lucia panicked completely. Her eyes darted around frantically until they landed on me, and she inexplicably calmed down. Then, as if remembering something, she stepped forward and spoke up. All right, that's enough." The surroundings fell silent for a moment, and everyone turned to look at her. She took a deep breath, and her voice unconsciously softened. "It's my fault. I admit it. I shouldn't have set the departure time at 8 o'clock. It was inconsiderate of me." She was never the type to admit fault, and her classmates exchanged uneasy glances. Recalling the look in her eyes just now, I suddenly had a bad feeling. Sure enough, as I was thinking this, she turned her head directly toward me. But I didn't mean it either. Some people know the departure time is wrong, but don't bother to remind me. If I had known we'd be late leaving at 8 o'clock, Would I have made everyone wait? As soon as she finished speaking, I froze, then couldn't help but let out a laugh. I never expected this blame to be thrown my way. I looked at her composedly, and she seemed as if she had suffered a great injustice. We're all in the same class. Isn't there anything we can't say face to face? It was all fine at first, but then someone sneaked in early on their own. They must have known something, although someone wasn't named directly. Many eyes around us turned to me. Someone had indeed seen me getting out of the taxi this morning. At this thought, their expressions shifted slightly, seeing that the public opinion was about to be diverted. Lu Suyao's lips curled slightly, and at the same time, she spoke even more vigorously. I really don't understand. If there's something you're unhappy about, you can say it outright. Why does such an important exam have to be kept from us? At this point, her eyes reddened, and tears seemed about to fall. I admit I was wrong, but is someone else completely blameless? Her voice was impassioned, and the surrounding silence was dead. I leaned against the pillar nearby, watching her, seeing that she was almost done with her act. I straightened up and brushed off my sleeves. Are you done? Lu Suyao's eyelashes fluttered slightly, but she said nothing. I approached her with a forced smile. You say I sneaked off on my own, but as I recall, I never said I was going with you in the first place. So, how is that sneaking off? Not expecting me to call her out directly, Lu Suyao slowly turned around and pressed her lips together. I didn't say. You didn't mention my name, but every word was aimed at me. I let out a cold snort and took another step forward. Then let me make it clear in front of everyone today. I took a cab to the exam venue myself. Your lateness has nothing to do with me. Lu Suyao's lips twitched, and I stared into her eyes, without giving her a chance to speak. Are you blind or what? Can't you check the weather forecast on your phone? And doesn't everyone know you're always a last-minute person who was trying to drag the whole class down with you, and got called out by me? My words carried a sharp edge of sarcasm. Seeing her face gradually turn pale as she stepped back, I reached out and grabbed her wrist firmly. You say I stabbed the whole class in the back. Then show me the evidence. If you can, I'll apologize to you right now. But if you can't, I narrowed my eyes, my voice suddenly turning cold. Then shut your mouth. In everyone's eyes, I had always been a meek little lamb, someone who wouldn't start a conflict unless absolutely necessary. But now, seeing me confront her publicly, everyone gasped in shock. Lu Suyao had never been humiliated like this before. She stammered for a long time, without saying a word, shot me a glare, then broke free from my grip, and ran outside. Suyen looked at me, with eyes full of disappointment, and followed her out. The scene fell silent again. The other classmates around me looked at me differently now, though a few still harbored resentment. But resentment aside, their grades had already been affected in the remaining exams. I stayed completely focused, and did very well. My classmates, having learned from experience, all arrived at the exam hall early, and didn't even dare to take a nap, afraid they might oversleep again. But they didn't know that, with the high temperatures these days, and their lack of rest, they would definitely feel weak and drowsy during the afternoon math exam. Sure enough, just as I expected, after the afternoon math exam, those people cried even harder. I couldn't concentrate at all. I was so sleepy. I wasn't sleepy, but I kept feeling inexplicably tired. Questions I could normally answer, I couldn't solve today. The others who had left questions blank were pretty much the same. The days waiting for the results were agonizing. I refreshed the official website 800 times a day, knowing the results wouldn't come out early, but still couldn't help clicking in to check. On the day the results were released, many people sat in front of their computers. I sat at my desk, too, my palms drenched in cold sweat, but hard work paid off. A few seconds later, a number popped up on the screen. 673. I was stunned, staring at that number for 3 seconds before it fully hit me. A surge of joy welled up inside, and I couldn't help but curl my lips into a smile. My score was over 10 points higher than my estimated one. I was safe. Just as I was about to text my parents to share the good news, the homeroom teacher sent a message in the group chat. Classmates, the results are out. Please report your scores in the following format: name plus total score. The moment the message was sent, the group fell into dead silence. After several seconds, someone finally started the chain. I glanced over the scores. Each one was lower than the last. Those who had easily scored over 600 in mock exams were now hovering around 300 to 400. Seeing that everyone had severely underperformed, the group chat erupted in lamentation. I'm over 100 points lower than my mock exam score. Me, too. I only got 70-something in math. I've never scored this low before. My science comprehensive exam was a disaster. I filled in the wrong row on the answer sheet. I didn't finish my essay and lost 30 points. Who said it would only be a few points? If I hadn't been late on the first day and lost my composure, I wouldn't have ended up with such a terrible result. The scores kept coming in the chain. I scrolled up one by one. Most were in the 300s, with a few even barely over 200. Once most of the classmates had reported, the group chat fell completely silent. The entire class had underperformed. After a long time, the head teacher finally replied, with a message full of helplessness. Got it. I knew she was equally desperate. Later, I vaguely heard about what happened on the day of the college entrance exam. The head teacher had gone to wake them up, but they turned a deaf ear. Some even disrespected the teacher, directly cursing at her, and saying that if they didn't rest well, it all would be her fault. A chill of disappointment surged in her heart. The head teacher didn't continue to persuade them, but simply turned around and walked out. Thinking of this, a sarcastic smile curled at the corner of my mouth. Serves them right, doesn't it? Those selfish people who disrespected the teacher are all on the low-score list. This list will eventually be sent to the school and will be ridiculed by many, but it has nothing to do with me anymore. Just as I was thinking this, I was about to leave the group chat, but at that moment, a new video popped up at the bottom. Driven by curiosity, I clicked on it, but the next second, I instantly gasped. What came into view was a girl, the very same one who had been in the same exam room as me. She was now sitting on the rooftop. It was windy outside today, and the weather had blown her hair into a mess. She was crying so hard that tears and snot were all over her face. I didn't finish my essay. I didn't even finish the first exam on the first day. I got caught in the rain, and the next day I started running a fever. My mind was a blur for the remaining exams, and I left questions unfinished in every subject. I scored 630 in mock exams, but I only got 410. The moment she thought of her score, she sobbed until she could barely breathe. The video cut off there. The group chat instantly exploded again. Holy, get down. Don't do anything stupid. It's windy on the rooftop. Come down. First, let's talk it out. But there was no reply from her below. Many people started panicking. Call her. Who has her number? Lucia. Do you have her parents' number? Hurry and contact them. Lucia didn't respond. Seeing this, even the few who had been silent earlier started cursing her. Are you satisfied now? Someone's life is on the line. What the hell time did you set? 8 o'clock on a rainy day. You cut it close on normal days, but you do it for the college entrance exam. 2. Are you out of your mind? Lucia didn't reply a single word from start to finish. She had originally hoped that by not responding, the matter would blow over. But instead, the criticism only grew louder. Seeing the situation spiraling out of control, she finally steeled herself and replied, How was I supposed to know it would rain? The weather forecast isn't always accurate. Besides, I did poorly, too. I scored 80 points lower than my mock exam. That was what she said, but no one appreciated it. You didn't know. Someone reminded you. And you forgot. They said there would be a heavy rain. What did you say yourself? You told them to shut up. You're the only one in the class who thinks you can arrange everything. Have you ever listened to anyone else? Message after message came crashing down on her, and Lucia was once again left speechless. This whole mess had nothing to do with me. Just as I was about to leave the group chat, I saw Su Yen at me in the group. Damn. Songwei scored 650. Seeing the score, the group chat instantly exploded. 650? Isn't she usually around 580? How did she improve by over 100 points? Did she cheat? And she was in the same exam room as that girl. The other girl scored 410, and she scored 650. She must have done it on purpose to provoke her. Messages kept popping up one after another. their malicious speculations growing more absurd. I always said she wasn't that good normally. How did she suddenly explode on the college entrance exam? She must have cheated. Otherwise, there's no way she could have improved that much. Who was sitting next to her? Did someone pass her the answers? The public opinion shifted, and Su Yen seized the opportunity to post another message, still directing that at me. You watched her mental state collapse, and didn't even comfort her. And you cheated, too. Are you even human? His words were full of sarcasm, seeing a trend toward self-exoneration. Lu Suya also reappeared to steer the narrative, saying meaningfully, "No, need to think about it. You must have said something to her. Otherwise, how could she suddenly have such a breakdown? Coming out of the same exam room. You were all smiles, while she was crying like that. If it wasn't intentional, what was it?" A few lines of text popped up, and I couldn't help but laugh out loud. I scored high, because I was well prepared. I arrived at the exam venue early, and finished every subject. As for them bombing the exam, it was purely their own fault, blaming the heavens, the earth, even the air, but never themselves. Just as I was thinking this, Su Yen sent another message in the group. It has nothing to do with you. If you had scored lower, would she have felt such a huge letdown? Scoring this high, what else is it if not provoking her? I'm going to report you for cheating on the college entrance exam to the Education Bureau. Just wait until you end up in jail. Really, I found it even more ridiculous. As I typed, I couldn't help but snicker. Then go ahead and report me. It's not like I should deliberately bomb the exam to accommodate her feelings and end up in a wheelchair with her. Right? That remark made sense, and the group gradually fell silent. I directly turned off my phone, opened my computer, and started searching for tips on filling out college applications. Let them curse all they want. I had already seen the scores they tallied. Every single one of them had bombed the exam. Those who usually scored well enough for a first-tier university in mock exams barely made it into a vocational college. You could see I had no response in the group. So, they eventually turned their sights on Lucia. After all, she was the one who started it all, the one who set the time, and the one who wouldn't listen. How safe it was to blame her. Everyone just joined in cursing her. But those classmates were all filled with heavy resentment. After days of venting in the group chat, they still weren't satisfied. Eventually, someone went ahead and posted her home address. The power of netizens is nothing to scoff at. By the next day, things had arrived at her doorstep, just like what happened to me last time. Colorful wreaths were arranged in a circle, with elegiac couplets reading, "May you rest in peace," set right in the middle of the unit entrance, startling everyone who came and went, causing such great inconvenience to their lives. Within less than half a day, those neighbors started cursing her, and her family, too. The wreaths weren't enough. Every day, someone would slip threatening letters under her door. No one knew what was written in those letters, but when Lucia's mother opened one and took a look, she broke down emotionally on the spot, sitting at the door and crying, thinking that might earn some sympathy from netizens, little knowing it only gave them another opening. People who fail the college entrance exam can be truly terrifying. On the third day, spirit money was scattered all over the ground, a golden sea of paper, currency spreading all the way to Lucia's doorstep. Intimidated like this every day, her family had no choice but to call the police. The police handled the case seriously, and, within 3 days, had tracked down the boy. It turned out to be a male classmate who had failed the exam. Barely an adult, the moment he heard the police on the phone, the boy started crying and shouting emotionally, "I didn't mean it. My family is already poor, and now that I've failed the exam, my life is ruined. I'm just too angry. Why does Lucia get to act like nothing happened after what she did to us?" His voice was heart-wrenching. The recording once again stirred up a small storm online. The boy's mother took him to Lu Suyao's house overnight to apologize, but the Lu family didn't open the door. After the news spread, the online criticism of Lu Suyao intensified. "They came to apologize, and you still won't open the door. Aren't you being a bit too stuck up? To be honest, you ruined the whole class. What's wrong with them putting up a wreath? If I were that boy, I'd just smash the door down." The comments in the comments section grew more outrageous by the minute. The incident blew up, and, with its sensational nature, by the third day, several well-known news reporters had swarmed in. They initially wanted to ask the homeroom teacher about the whole story of the college entrance exam lateness incident, but the teacher had been so disheartened by their behavior that she neither agreed nor refused. After a long silence, she just sighed and said, "Go ask the students." The reporters had no choice but to contact several representative students and arrange to meet them in a conference room. Their eyes were filled with subtle, barely concealed excitement. Ruining someone else's life was exactly the kind of thing they loved to do. The red light on the camera came on, and a girl immediately burst into tears. She ruined the fate of our entire class. That was the college entrance exam, the only one in a lifetime, and she just destroyed it for us. She was sobbing so hard she could barely speak. And seeing this, the other students chimed in. Lu Suyao has always been extremely arrogant, never listening to anyone's opinions. We were oppressed by her every day. She insisted on choosing that bus company back then. I seriously suspect she took a kickback. She must have known she wouldn't pass the exam herself, so she dragged us down. With her, one after another, they quickly washed their hands of any blame. Her childhood friend, Su Yen, sat in the corner, his expression growing darker by the minute as the classmates' discussion grew louder. He finally couldn't hold it in anymore, and slammed the table. Standing up, "Haven't you said enough? She just made a mistake in judgment, didn't she? Who among you has never made a mistake? Why didn't any of you stand up and oppose her back then? Now you're putting all the blame on her alone." The meeting room fell silent for 2 seconds, and then everyone turned to look at him. A few seconds later, someone couldn't help but let out a sneer. Their eyes filled with deep sarcasm and disdain. "Oh, feeling sorry for her? Don't you know you're just the dog she keeps? What benefits has she given you? Don't tell me you actually like her. Lu Siyuan has never even looked at you properly. Do you really think she's devoted to you? Don't you know she's juggling 5 guys?" Caught off guard, Su Yan's expression froze completely, his face full of disbelief, realizing the implication of their words. He shook his head frantically. "How is that possible? Lu Siyuan would never do this to me." Seeing this, the others looked at him with sympathy, a feeling that could only be sensed but not expressed. Su Yan wasn't stupid either. His face gradually turned pale, his eyes reddened, and he ran out of the meeting room, without looking back. As for the interviews with the classmates that day, the reporters embellished them and posted them online, inevitably stirring up a storm on the internet. The topic quickly shot to the top of the trending list. Since it was the college entrance exam season, the news soon garnered over 100 million views, with hundreds of thousands of comments in the discussion section ranging across all opinions. However, most were cursing Lu Siyuan and Su Yan. After all, she was the mastermind, and he was not, without blame. Having never experienced such severe online bullying, Lu Siyuan was too afraid to even step out of her door. Her mother, worried about her, took a month off work to stay home with her. Yet even so, their house was often filled with wails and cries in the dead of night. Su Yan wasn't having an easy time either. His photos were screenshotted and posted online, with the comments section full of insults aimed at him. "Hilarious. You thought you were in a romantic situation with her, but she's out shopping with someone else. Really got played by a woman. I don't know where he gets the nerve." Su Yan initially didn't want to get involved, but soon someone dug up his social media accounts, and thousands of private messages flooded in, all filled with curses. You can't hide fire in paper. And it was only after the situation blew up that Su Yan found out Lu Xia wasn't just toying with him. She was like an octopus, seizing every chance to chat with others, even playing favorites. "You're way more reliable than Su Yan. That idiot buys me breakfast every day." And it's so annoying. When Su Yan saw the screenshots, he showed no reaction at all. Instead, he directly sent Lu Xia a message. "Have you been treating me like a fool all along?" Too blunt, Lu Xia didn't bother pretending anymore. She simply stopped replying, ignoring every message Su Yan sent, and eventually even blocked him. His feelings were betrayed, and he ended up being vilified across the internet. From that day on, Su Denchund, he stopped going out, stopped answering calls, and vanished as if he had evaporated. Someone went to knock on his door, but his father refused to open it. When asked about it, he only said that Su-Yen wasn't feeling well. I didn't think much of it. I assumed their outcome would just be repeating a year of school, and that this matter would gradually fade, with time, never to be brought up again. But I never expected that. Just a few days later, a mutual friend suddenly sent me a message. "Did you hear Su-Yen is dead?" A buzzing sound rang in my head, and I froze. My first thought was that he had committed suicide, but that shouldn't be the case. Based on my years of knowing him, his emotions shouldn't be that fragile. Thinking this, I typed back directly, "What happened?" The person on the other end sighed, and directly sent me a video. The footage was blurry, shot from a high angle, as if taken from a residential building window. The image shook violently, but I could make out two people standing by the river. One wore a black hoodie, with a hood, his face obscured, and the other was Su-Yen. The two seemed to be in some kind of argument, and the man in black suddenly shoved him hard. He lost his balance, stumbling 2 steps backward, his foot landing on the edge of the riverbank. He barely steadied himself, a fierce anger flashing in his eyes, and threw a punch directly at the other man. The man in black, now fully enraged, shoved him again, with great force. This time, Su-Yen fell even harder, struggling to regain his footing, and his entire body leaned backward. He tried to grab the railing again to steady himself, but this time his hand caught nothing, and he toppled straight over the railing, plunging into the river. Water splashed 2 meters high as he thrashed in the water, his arms flailing above his head. The man in black shuddered violently, stood frozen for 2 seconds, then turned and ran in the opposite direction. As for Su-Yen, that area was sparsely populated and dimly lit, with no one noticing someone had fallen into the water. His movements grew slower and slower until finally his head sank beneath the surface and never resurfaced. The entire process took less than 2 minutes. The video ended abruptly there. I pressed the back button, a chill creeping uncontrollably through my heart. The news quickly spread like wildfire through the school, whether it was due to excessive psychological pressure or something else. Lucia wasn't faring much better either. Ever since Su-Yen died, she had nightmares every night, dreaming of him crawling out of the river to find her, standing motionless by her bed, drenched and pale, or lunging at her with a twisted expression. She would wake up screaming, only to find herself drenched in sweat. But the moment she closed her eyes, the same image would reappear, so she simply kept them open and sat upright until dawn. This couldn't go on. Her mother took her to see a doctor, who prescribed piles of sleeping pills, but they were utterly useless. Instead, she began to suffer from sleepless nights altogether. In the later stages, she even developed symptoms of schizophrenia. Hallucinations started appearing during the day. She kept saying that Su-Yen was glaring at her, that he was always by her side. Whenever this happened, she would let out a scream and start rambling incoherently. "He's not dead. He's faking it. He wants to scare me. I didn't push him. It wasn't me. You're all lying to me. You're all in on it." With him, her couldn't withstand the overwhelming emotions crashing down on her, and she even started hitting people. Her mother, heartbroken, tried to feed her, but Lu Suya slapped her mother across the face, leaving a swollen red mark. Her mother froze for a moment, then set the bowl aside, wrapped her arms around her, and burst into loud sobs. But Lu Suya wasn't done. With her mother, she began punching and kicking her wildly. "Don't touch me. You're fake, too. You're just here to scare me on purpose." The noise she made was so loud that the neighbors called the police, but the police couldn't do anything to her. Instead, she hit and kicked them, too, having no other choice. The officers had to subdue her on the ground. Yet, she, as if possessed by some demonic force, struggled wildly, screaming almost heart-wrenchingly, "Don't touch me. Go to hell. All of you." Her mental state was more than obvious. The officers exchanged glances and let out a collective sigh. That afternoon, Lu Suya was sent to the hospital's psychiatric ward. The diagnosis came quickly. Lu Suya was suffering from acute stress disorder accompanied by paranoid delusions and manic episodes. In short, It was a severe mental illness, with virtually no chance of recovery. The doctor recommended admitting her to a psychiatric hospital to prevent her from violently attacking others in the future. Her mother had no choice but to follow the doctor's advice. However, she did not know that the psychiatric hospital where Lu Suyuan was sent was notoriously known for its brutal management, having even killed people before. Though the incidents were covered up, news of this quickly spread to the class group chat. Upon learning the news, those classmates merely sighed in regret. The complaints disappeared along with Suyan's death and Lu Suyuan's downfall, and the online verbal attacks ceased completely. Everyone's lives seemed to gradually return to normal. After some time, I received my university admission letter. Meanwhile, my classmates had all signed up for repeat classes, while those from poorer families simply gave up on education and went out to work. I became the only one in the class to get into a top 985 university. With no more pressure in my heart, I spent a month traveling and enjoying the beautiful landscapes. By the time I returned, it was already the start of the September semester, running into some repeat classmates returning to school on a weekend. I saw envy in their eyes as they looked at my youthful and radiant appearance. What were they thinking? Probably thinking that it would have been better to listen to me back then. Unfortunately, there is no what if. A bright smile curled at the corners of my mouth as I pulled my suitcase and walked toward the airport, heading to university to report in, ready to embark on my new journey. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comment section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. A week before the college entrance exam, the class beauty claimed that drinking her family's secret herbal concoction would boost intelligence and guarantee top scores. Fearing it might affect the exam, I desperately urged everyone not to drink unknown potions, earning the class beauty's resentment as a result. The entire class isolated me, led by her. They hurled insults and bullied me, calling me selfish for blocking their path to high scores. In the end, I staggered out of school in a daze and was hit by a truck. Reborn. I vowed never to speak up again. This time I won't stop you. Let's see whether you soar to heaven or plunge into hell. I suddenly opened my eyes, fine beads of sweat forming on my forehead. The noisy sounds of the classroom flooded into my ears like a tide, and sunlight slanted through the window, spilling onto my desk, illuminating the open college entrance exam mock test papers. This can't be. I looked down at my completely unharmed hands, fingertips trembling slightly. Just moments ago, or perhaps in another time and space, I had been lying in a pool of blood, feeling life slowly drain from my body. Jim, what are you spacing out for? My desk mate John nudged me with his elbow. Tina's about to start handing out the medicine. I slowly raised my head, my gaze passing over rows of desks to land on the girl in a white dress standing in front of the lectern. Tina, the class beauty, was holding a thermos flask, a sweet smile on her face. This scene feels so familiar that it even makes me question my existence. Classmates, this is a secret recipe passed down from my grandfather, specifically for boosting brain power and energy. Tina's voice was clear and melodious. My dad stayed up all night to brew it, just a small cup every day, and I guarantee everyone will perform exceptionally well in the college entrance exams. Because my fists were clenched so tightly, my nails dug deep into my palms. I had been reborn, returned to that day that changed everything. 1 week before the college entrance exams, the day Tina distributed the miracle potion. In my previous life, I had earnestly tried to dissuade everyone from drinking the mysterious potion, even secretly pouring some of it away. And the result, I was ostracized by the whole class, led by Tina, who hurled insults at me, calling me selfish and accusing me of preventing others from achieving high scores. In the end, I ran out of the school in a daze and was hit by a truck. No good deed goes unpunished. This time, I won't make the same mistake again. I sneered inwardly, watching my classmates scramble to gather around. Me first. The class sports committee member, was the first to rush to the podium. I'm the worst at physics. Perfect timing to boost my brain power. Tina poured out a small cup of brown liquid, with a smile, instantly filling the classroom. with a peculiar herbal medicine smell mixed with some pungent sweetness. This smell is so strong. Class monitor Judy wrinkled her nose. Good medicine tastes bitter, Tina said nonchalantly. My grandfather said it's brewed from dozens of rare herbs, so of course the smell is special. I sat quietly in my seat, watching coldly. In my past life, this was when I stood up and loudly warned everyone not to drink unknown medicine. But now, I just lowered my head slightly, pretending to read, without a word. Jim, aren't you going to have a cup? Tina suddenly looked at me, a sharp glint flashing in her eyes. My silence made me stand out awkwardly in the chattering atmosphere. The whole class turned to look at me. I looked up and gave a harmless smile. My stomach hasn't been very good lately, and the doctor said traditional Chinese medicine isn't suitable for me. Tisk cowered. I think you're just scared. Leo scoffed, tilted his head back, and down the medicine. Wow, it's a bit bitter, but after drinking it, my whole body feels warm, and my mind instantly feels much clearer. Really? Is it that amazing? A few classmates approached, half believing, half doubting. Why would I lie to you? Leo patted his chest. I feel like I can solve that last challenging physics problem now. This sentence was like a shot of adrenaline, drawing more classmates toward Tina. I watched them one by one drink that unknown liquid, feeling utterly indifferent inside. In my past life, I saw them as classmates, as friends, but in the end, they were all just a pack of ungrateful wolves, not worthy of the slightest sympathy. Jim, are you really not drinking? Wendy, the class monitor, walked over. With a cup in hand. Everyone else has had some. It's perfectly safe. I shook my head. I really can't drink it. You all go ahead. I need to pick up some stomach medicine from the infirmary later. Wendy pouted and turned to leave, whether it was my imagination or not. I noticed her steps seemed a bit hurried, and her cheeks were flushed with an unusual redness. The class Belle's charisma was truly unmatched. In less than half an hour, out of the 43 students in the class, everyone except me had drunk Tina's miracle potion. The classroom was filled with a strange, excited atmosphere. Voices grew louder, and some even began dancing as if they'd already been admitted to Tsinghua or Peking University. I can clearly feel myself getting smarter. John suddenly slammed the table and stood up. I remember all the math formulas now. Me too. Tina, this medicine is amazing. Praise came from all sides as Tina stood on the podium, proud as a peacock spreading its tail. As for me, I silently watched their performance, really wanting to give each of them an Oscar statuette. After 3 years as classmates, I just realized they had such talent for acting. Quiet, everyone. Teacher Lucas, the homeroom teacher, pushed the door open and frowned at the noisy classroom. What's going on? Teacher, we drank Tina's family's secret brain-boosting tonic, and the effects are incredible, a classmate excitedly reported. Teacher Lucas looked at Tina suspiciously. What medicine was it? Approved by the school. It's just a family recipe. Something to drink like water. Tina stammered, mumbling under her breath, clearly lacking confidence. I lowered my head to hide the sneer at the corner of my mouth. Judging by her reaction, there was definitely something wrong with that medicine. Only these foolish, ungrateful wolves would blindly trust her and overlook such details. Nonsense, Teacher Lucas said sternly. How can you take random medicine before the college entrance exams? What if there are side effects? Teacher, we really feel great, Leo protested loudly. I was sleepy before, but now I just want to do the test papers. Teacher Lucas scanned the classroom, facing these fervent gazes, as if she still wanted to say something. But the class bell rang. She could only wave her hand. Let's start the class first. We'll deal with this after class. Tina, come to my office after school. The class began, but no one was paying attention. The students who had taken the medicine were clearly in an abnormally excited state. Some kept shaking their legs, some muttered to themselves quietly, and others occasionally let out eerie laughter. Soon, it was time for school to end. Tina was called to the office, and fewer people remained in the classroom. I packed my bag and prepared to leave. Jim, Wendy suddenly stopped me. Why? Why didn't you take the medicine? Do you have any idea what you're missing? looking at her twisted expression. I said softly, "I just have a sensitive stomach. You don't look well. Should we go to the infirmary?" "I'm fine. Better than ever." Wendy laughed shrilly. "I feel terrifyingly strong now. Like I could ace every test." Without continuing to talk to her, I walked out of the classroom. Let's just wait and see. The sunlight streamed through the classroom window onto my desk, and as I stared at the bright patches of light, my fingertips unconsciously tapped on the tabletop. It had been 3 days since I was reborn, and I still wondered every morning when I woke up if it was all just a long dream. "Jim, let me borrow your notes." I looked up and saw Wendy standing in front of my desk, with heavy dark circles under her eyes. Ever since she drank Tina's medicine, she had been in a strange state of excitement, reportedly sleeping only 3 or 4 hours a day, but full of energy. "Here." I handed over the notebook, without saying anything more. "Thanks." She took the notes, the edges of her nails showing obvious bite marks. I recited the periodic table 10 times last night, and now my mind feels unusually clear. I nodded, without adding anything. Amid the rustling of pages and hushed whispers in the classroom, the atmosphere remained quite lively. After all, this was a group of people who were particularly confident about the college entrance exams. Tina's seat was at the front of the classroom. Today, she wore a light blue dress, with her hair tied into a high ponytail, looking neat and fresh. Who would have thought that such a glamorous-looking girl would have led the charge in bullying me in my past life, ultimately driving me to a mental breakdown and causing me to dash into the street? "Class, there are only 4 days left until the college entrance exams." Mr. Lucas, our homeroom teacher, tapped the blackboard. "Today, we'll go over a few key problem types. Please focus." I forced myself to shift my gaze away from Tina and toward the blackboard. In my past life, by this time, I had already been isolated by the entire class, enduring daily taunts and cruel pranks. But now, I was like a ghost, sitting quietly in the corner of the classroom, with no one paying me much attention, and that suited me just fine. The bell rang for the end of class, and as soon as Teacher Lucas left the classroom, Tina stood up, holding that familiar thermos in her hand. "Who hasn't had their medicine today? My dad brewed a new batch, and it's even more effective." Her voice was as sweet as honey. Several classmates immediately gathered around her, including the usually cautious class monitor. "Judy, how have you all been feeling these past few days?" Judy adjusted her glasses and asked hesitantly. "It's absolutely amazing." Leo jumped up from the back row and rushed to the podium in a few quick steps. After drinking it, I could understand physics problems at a glance. My mock exam score was 20 points higher than last time. I lowered my head, pretending to organize my books, but my ears were perked up listening to their conversation. Leo did perform well, but what he didn't mention was that he had barely slept these past 2 days, staying up all night solving problems. "Then, give me another cup today," Judy said to Tina. Tina smiled as she poured out a small cup of dark brown liquid, and the classroom was once again filled with that peculiar medicinal aroma. Opportunity knocks but once. "Jim, are you really not going to reconsider?" Tina suddenly looked at me, her eyes probing. "You're the only one in the class who hasn't had it yet." "Can't help it. My stomach ulcer is acting up. Forget about the herbal medicine. The doctor said I need to avoid all irritating foods for 2 weeks." Elite. Without batting an eye, "I really envy you guys." Tina pursed her lips, looking somewhat skeptical, but she didn't press further. She turned to the other students and continued distributing her miracle potion. "In this life, without my interference." Tina smoothly handed out the medicine to everyone. It was a case of one willing to hit, the other willing to be hit. I wouldn't say a word. Learning to respect others' choices is what I truly need to master. On my way home, I passed by a pharmacy with an advertisement in the window that read, "Final sprint for the college entrance exam. Calm the mind and nourish the brain." I stopped and stared at the ad for a moment before suddenly laughing. In my past life, I fought desperately to protect those classmates, only to be repaid with betrayal and harm. This time around, I choose to stand by and watch. Let's see whether you'll soar straight to heaven or plunge into the abyss. When I got home, my phone buzzed with a message from the class group chat. Tina had posted a group photo of the entire class with the caption, "Drank the miracle potion. Victory in the college entrance exam is ours." In the photo, everyone was smiling brightly, including me. Of course, only I knew the true meaning behind my smile. I stared at the photo for a long time before turning off my phone. Outside the window, the sun was setting. What a perfect time to watch the fiery clouds. Tomorrow is the final sprint before the college entrance exam, and I'm eager to see what the ultimate outcome of this miracle drug will be for them. I closed my eyes, and memories from my past life flooded in. The sounds of insults, mockery, the screeching of brakes on the first day of the college entrance exam. The morning sun was exceptionally bright. I stood at the gate of the exam site, clutching my admission ticket, watching as my classmates arrived one by one. Most of them had dark circles under their eyes, their faces as pale as paper, looking completely different from their hyperactive selves just 3 days ago. I walked over and noticed Wendy's eyes were bloodshot, her fingers constantly twisting the hem of her clothes. Leo was drenched in sweat, repeatedly wiping his forehead with a tissue. "What's wrong with you two?" I asked deliberately, though I already had a rough idea in my mind. "I don't know. I've been feeling awful since last night." Wendy's voice trembled slightly. "I'm so dizzy and keep feeling nauseous." Leo gritted his teeth. "Same here. I feel completely drained, like I have a fever. Damn it, of all days to feel like this." I looked around and noticed many classmates showing similar symptoms. Some leaned against the wall, with their eyes closed. Others kept drinking water, and a few girls were quietly sobbing. Tina was the last to arrive. She wore a red dress today, saying it was for good luck, but her pale face made the bright red appear particularly jarring. Her steps were unsteady, and she even stumbled slightly when reaching the front of the line. "Tina, are you okay?" Judy steadied her. "I'm fine. Just a bit nervous." Tina forced a smile, but I noticed her pupils were unusually dilated, and her fingers were trembling slightly. The bell rang, and we lined up to enter the examination hall. As we went through security, Leo's legs suddenly gave out, and he almost fell to his knees, caught by the invigilator. "Are you all right, student? Do you need to go to the infirmary?" the teacher asked, with concern. "No, I'm fine," Leo practically shouted, then lowered his voice. "It's just a bit of low blood sugar." The teacher eyed him suspiciously, but eventually let him pass. My seat is in the middle of the classroom, with Wendy in front of me and Tina to my right front. When the test papers were handed out, the classroom was so quiet you could hear the sound of pencils scratching against the paper. I glanced at the test paper. The essay topic was choice. I sneered inwardly and began answering the questions calmly. In less than half an hour, unusual signs started appearing. First, it was Wendy. She kept shifting in her seat, pressing her left hand tightly against her temple, while her right hand wrote slower and slower. Then it was Tina, who sat rigidly straight in front of me, but I could see her shoulders trembling slightly. The most severe case was Leo. 1 hour into the exam, he suddenly raised his hand. "Teacher, may I go to the restroom?" The invigilator frowned. "There's only 1 hour left. Can you hold on?" Leo's face turned from pale to green, with beads of sweat breaking out on his forehead. "I can't hold it anymore." The teacher had no choice but to call an external invigilator to accompany him to the restroom. As Leo left, his steps were unsteady, and he nearly knocked over 2 desks. My pen glided smoothly across the exam paper, yet a storm of complex emotions churned within me. In my previous life, failing to make the right choice had led to my tragic death. This time, my choice was correct. But what about yours? Tina suddenly let out a faint whimper. She clutched her head, her shoulders trembling violently. The invigilator walked over and whispered a few questions, but she only shook her head in response. When the final bell rang, the classroom erupted in sighs of despair. Wendy's essay was only half finished, with several noticeable water stains on the paper. Like fallen tears, Tina's answer sheet had a large blank section. Another incomplete attempt. "It's over. Completely over." Leo crouched in a corner of the hallway after leaving the exam room, gripping his hair. with both hands. I didn't even touch the last 3 major questions. My mind just went blank. Judy's face didn't look any better. I completely forgot all the classical poetry fill-in-the-blanks. Even though I could recite them backwards just yesterday, the students' complaints rose and fell around me, but I remained silent. Tina, surrounded in the middle, grew increasingly pale. Tina, didn't you say this medicine would last until the end of the college entrance exams? Wendy suddenly demanded, her voice hoarse. Why did it fail in just the first test? I don't know either. Tina stammered in reply. Maybe it's because everyone's constitution is different. I barely slept last night. A boy interjected. My heart was racing like crazy all night. And even sleeping pills didn't help. Me, too. Same here. The voices of agreement grew louder, and the students' gazes gradually focused on Tina, filled with suspicion and anger. It might not necessarily be because of the medicine. Tina took a step back, her lips trembling. I drank more than any of you. How could I possibly harm you all? But you never mentioned what side effects this medicine might have. Wendy suddenly raised her voice. We drank it, without knowing anything. Tina's face turned pale in an instant. Standing on the outskirts of the crowd, I watched the escalating conflict with cold detachment. In my past life, they had ganged up on me the same way. Only back then, it was because I had stopped them from drinking the medicine, ruining their future prospects. All right. Judy stepped in to mediate. We still have math this afternoon. Everyone, calm down and go rest for now. The crowd reluctantly dispersed, but I noticed the way some classmates looked at Tina had changed. It was the look of shattered trust, just like the way they had looked at me in my past life. The afternoon math exam was even more brutal. Within half an hour, 3 students had to be helped out of the exam hall due to dizziness and nausea. Wendy suddenly burst into tears while working on the second major question and was taken out by the invigilator for comfort. Tina lasted until the end, but her answer sheet had large blank sections, and her hands trembled so badly when handing it in that she could barely hold the pen. When the exams ended the next day, the class group chat fell into complete silence, as if everyone had collectively vanished. Just as I expected, everything was unfolding according to my predictions. But this was only the beginning. When the college entrance exam results come out, when they realize their lives have been ruined by that so-called miracle potion, that's when the real storm will hit, and I just needed to wait quietly. On the 3rd day after the college entrance exams ended, the class group chat suddenly exploded. Lying in bed, I scrolled through the messages that kept popping up on my phone. The first one was from Leo at 3 a.m. Is anyone else in so much pain they can't sleep? Immediately after, over a dozen replies flooded in. It hurt so much, like I've been beaten up. I had a fever of 39 degrees and went to the hospital. My urine was brown, and the doctor asked me what I'd eaten. I slowly scrolled through the screen, my lips curling into an involuntary smile. These classmates, who had once bullied me alongside Tina, were now getting their well-deserved karma. The messages in the class group chat had already exceeded 99 plus, and the content gradually shifted from complaints to direct accusations against Tina. Finally, someone directly at her. At Tina, what's the deal with that medicine you gave us? The doctor said I have drug poisoning. A few minutes later, Tina replied, there's no way the medicine could be problematic. It might just be a personal constitution issue. I'm feeling terrible, too. This response was like a drop of water falling into hot oil, instantly sparking an even more intense reaction. The whole class is having problems, and you're telling me it's about constitution. What exactly are the ingredients in that medicine? Don't you owe everyone an explanation? Tina didn't reply anymore. I turned off my phone and walked to the window. The summer sunlight was still bright, but I knew that in some hospital wards, my classmates were lying on sickbeds, paying the price for their gullibility and greed for shortcuts. The next day, I happened to pass by the downtown hospital. At the entrance of the inpatient department, I ran into Wendy's mother. Her eyes were red and swollen, clutching a stack of payment slips in her hand. Auntie, how is Wendy doing? I stepped forward and asked. She looked up at me, barely recognizing me as Wendy's classmate. The doctor said it's acute liver, and kidney damage caused by medication. She needs to be hospitalized for observation. This child, why is she so foolish? I followed Mrs. Jane to the ward. Wendy lay on the hospital bed, her face sallow, and 4 tubes inserted into the back of her hand. Seeing me, she managed a weak smile. You're so lucky you didn't take the medicine. I sat down on the chair by the bed. I heard that the medicine isn't free. Wendy's eyes flickered for a moment before she nodded. Tina said the ingredients are extremely rare, like wild ginseng. Cordyceps. I gave her all the scholarship money I'd saved. Her voice grew quieter until it turned into a sob, looking at the prominent veins on her thin wrists. I felt not an ounce of sympathy. The image of her viciously cursing at me in my past life seemed to flash before my eyes. What about the others? I asked. Leo is in the ward upstairs, with abnormal liver function. Judy's symptoms are milder, but she still needs daily injections. Wendy suddenly grabbed my wrist. Jim, do you think Tina knew the medicine was problematic? Instead of answering directly, I asked in return, what do you think? Wendy let go of my hand, her eyes dimming. I only found out yesterday that she didn't tell the teacher the truth. When Mr. Lucas asked her for it, she said it was all used up. When leaving the hospital, I saw a familiar figure in the outpatient hall. Tina, wearing a mask and a baseball cap, was hurrying toward the pharmacy. She didn't notice me, but I clearly saw the test results and several boxes of liver-protecting medicine in her hand. When I got home, there was a new message in the class group chat. Judy posted a photo of a lab test report, with the diagnosis section clearly stating, suspected drug-induced liver injury. Hospitalization recommended. Below it, she tagged Tina. Don't you owe everyone an explanation? This time, Tina replied quickly. I drank the same amount of medicine, and I'm suffering, too. The medicine was my grandfather's prescription, and it's never caused problems before. Maybe you all ate something else. This evasive response completely ignited the classmates' fury. Dozens of replies flooded in instantly, some calling her heartless, others demanding refunds, and a few even threatening to report her to the school. I turned off my phone and stepped onto the balcony, taking a deep breath. The summer night breeze carried the scent of flowers, and the city lights twinkled like stars in the distance. Everything was going even smoother than I'd imagined. Every word of Tina's defense was digging her deeper into the abyss, while those classmates who had once hurt me were now enduring torment far worse than what I'd suffered in my past life. The only difference is, this time, I only need to watch quietly outside the window. A bolt of lightning streaked across the night sky, and the distant rumble of thunder could be heard. The wind howled through the building, heralding the coming storm on the day the college entrance exam results were announced. The class group chat was first eerily silent, then exploded. With activity, I sat in front of the computer, looking at my score. 625 points. Not bad. This result was enough to get into the university I had my heart set on. I closed the results page and clicked on the constantly flashing group chat. I scored over 80 points lower than in the simulations. My math score is only half of what I usually get. It's over. I didn't even reach the second-tier cutoff line. Desperate messages kept flooding the screen. I counted. Almost all my classmates were complaining about unusually low scores. Those who had laughed at me alongside Tina in my past life were now tasting the bitter fruits of their own making. The sun scorched the earth, and the distant sound of cicadas filled the air. Such weather, paired with such anger, couldn't have been more fitting. At 3 p.m. in the residential area where Tina lived, from a distance, a crowd could be seen gathered around her building. About 20 students, and a dozen or so parents. Leo stood at the front, pressing the doorbell forcefully. I found a spot under the shade of a tree, neither too close nor too far, where I could observe the situation clearly, without getting involved. Tina, come out, refund, pay for the medical bills. You've ruined my child's future. The shouts grew louder, and several neighbors peeked out from their windows to see what was happening. Finally, the door of Tina's house opened, but it wasn't her who came out. It was a middle-aged man, presumably her father. Parents, students, please calm down. The man tried to soothe the crowd, but his voice was quickly drowned out. Your daughter sold fake medicine that harmed people. My son is still in the hospital. You will be held legally responsible. Tina's father had beads of sweat forming on his forehead. He turned and shouted something, and only then did Tina timidly appear at the door. Her face was pale, with heavy dark circles under her eyes, completely devoid of her usual charm as the class beauty. I really didn't know it would be like this. Her voice trembled. I'm a victim, too, Leo roared, raising his phone. Everyone, look. This is the test report I got from a professional institution. Her so-called miracle drug contains banned ingredients. It damages the nervous system. The crowd erupted in gasps. I narrowed my eyes, never expecting Leo to have this up his sleeve. It seems anger really can unleash people's potential. Tina's father's face instantly turned ashen. This can't be. And one more thing. Wendy's mother pushed her way to the front, waving a stack of receipts in her hand. My daughter saved every penny to give you 800 yuan for medicine. And what did you give her in return? Poison. Tina shrank behind her father, her lips trembling too much to speak. Everyone, please. Tina's father raised his voice. There must be some misunderstanding. That prescription was bought online, and the seller claimed it was pure traditional Chinese medicine. His words only poured fuel on the fire. The parents erupted in outrage. Some called them frauds. Others shouted about calling the police. And a few, overcome with emotion, tried to rush forward. Bought online. Leo's voice twisted with anger. Your daughter claimed it was a secret family recipe. Took so much money from us. Tina's father wiped his sweat. The cost really isn't low. Scammer. A boy shouted. I checked. That so-called smart drug can be bought in bulk online for just a few dozen bucks. As the truth was peeled back layer by layer, the crowd's fury burned hotter. I looked at Tina's pale face, remembering how arrogantly she had led the bullying against me in my past life. Now, it was her turn to taste what it felt like to be condemned by everyone. Refund. Pay for the medical bills. Call the police on them. The shouts grew louder and louder. Tina's father tried to explain, but no one would listen. Suddenly, Leo rushed forward and shoved Tina's father. Do you even know that? Because of that damn medicine. I missed my military academy physical. That was my lifelong dream. The push seemed to open the floodgates as several boys followed suit. The scene instantly descended into chaos. Some were pulling at Tina's clothes, while others pointed at her father and shouted curses. Tina's mother rushed out from the house to protect her daughter, but was shoved aside by an enraged parent. Stop! Everyone! Stop! Tina's father tried to restore order, but it was futile. Amid the chaos, Tina suddenly broke free from the crowd and turned to run toward the stairwell. Lo, and two other boys immediately gave chase. Don't run. You must give us an explanation today. I stood still listening to the hurried footsteps and shouts coming from upstairs. Suddenly, a sharp scream pierced the air, followed by the dull thud of something heavy tumbling down the stairs. Everyone fell silent for a moment before swarming toward the stairwell. I followed slowly and saw Tina lying at the turn of the stairs, her right leg twisted at an unnatural angle, her face covered in blood. The three boys chasing her stood a few steps away, their faces pale. I didn't touch her, Leo stammered. She slipped on her own. Tina's mother let out a heart-wrenching scream and rushed toward her daughter. Someone shouted to call an ambulance, while others began quietly backing away. The once ferocious crowd now deflated like a punctured balloon. The wail of an ambulance siren grew louder as it approached. I retreated to the edge of the crowd, coldly observing how this farce would end. Tina was still moaning as she was lifted onto the stretcher, her father boarding the ambulance after her. Before leaving, he glared viciously at everyone present. None of you will get away. With this, I'm calling the police. But no one was intimidated. One parent sneered. The police. Good. Let them investigate your fake medicine scam. After the ambulance drove away, the crowd gradually dispersed, but angry murmurs continued. I overheard someone talking about organizing a joint complaint, another about filing a lawsuit, and others calculating their losses from medical bills and tutoring fees. I turned and walked away, my heart utterly calm. In my previous life, when they drove me to a mental breakdown, and I got into a car accident, no one had called an ambulance for me. Back home, I turned on my computer. The class group chat was in chaos. Someone had uploaded a video of the incident, others were discussing legal liabilities, and some were just relieved they hadn't gotten involved. Leo posted a long message detailing how Tina had fallen down the stairs on her own, clearly terrified of being held accountable. I shut down the computer and stepped out onto the balcony. Night had fallen, and the city lights twinkled like stars in the distance. This revenge had gone even more smoothly than I'd imagined. Without me lifting a finger, they'd already turned on each other. Tina's leg was reportedly broken, and her face would be scarred. For someone as vain as her, that was probably worse than death. As for the classmates who had joined her in bullying me, they now faced physical injuries, ruined college entrance exams, and potential legal troubles. The play isn't over yet, but my part in it is no longer needed. The seeds have been sown. Let them grow naturally now. Outside the window, the summer night breeze carries a warm breath. I take a deep breath, cherishing every little moment since my rebirth. When the morning sunlight streams through the gaps in the curtains, my phone has already vibrated over a dozen times. Squinting, I swipe open the screen to see 99 plus unread messages in the class group chat, with a news link pinned at the top. College entrance exam student sells smart pills causing mass poisoning among classmates. Case filed over banned ingredients. I clicked on the link and saw a familiar class photo, with blurred faces as the accompanying image. The article detailed the incident, even mentioning the specifics of Tina falling down the stairs. The comment section was already in chaos, some cursing Tina for being heartless, others sympathizing with the affected students, and some debating the school's responsibility. I got up and opened the curtains. Down on the street, a few people with cameras were asking the neighborhood security guard something. Everything was under control, and things were unfolding exactly as I had anticipated in the class group chat. Reactions varied. Some were worried about their privacy being exposed. Others were angry at the media for exaggerating the facts. And a few were discussing whether to collectively give an interview to reveal the truth. Leo sent a voice message, his voice hoarse. The police questioned me last night about Tina falling down the stairs. I put down my phone and walked into the bathroom. The reflection in the mirror showed a calm face, devoid of any emotional fluctuations. After finishing my morning routine, I turned on my computer and searched for related news. The incident had already topped the trending list on social media, with the hashtag class beauty sells drugs harms classmates hashtag surpassing 200 million views. Major media outlets were competing to report on it, with some even digging up the health supplement company run by Tina's father, questioning its long-term regulatory violations. A segment from an interview caught my attention. In the footage, Wendy's mother, her eyes red, recounted how her daughter had gone from being in the top 20 of her grade to her current state. Lying in a hospital bed, the doctor said her liver damage might be permanent. The haggard mother choked up. She's only 18. Suddenly, my phone rang. It was our homeroom teacher. Mr. Lucas. Jim, are you at home? The school requires all students to fill out an incident statement form. I'll have someone deliver it to you. I replied, with my address, and then continued browsing the news. As the incident unfolded, more details emerged. Tina's so-called family secret recipe was actually purchased from an illegal drug forum. The powder, which cost less than 10 yuan per packet, was sold to classmates for prices ranging from 500 to 2,000 yuan. Some students even borrowed money to buy the drugs, and now face both debt and a health crisis. At noon, the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Judy standing outside looking haggard. After opening the door, she handed me a file folder. This is a form the school requires us to fill out. It needs to be returned by tomorrow. I took the folder and noticed her hand trembling slightly. Are you okay? Judy gave a bitter smile. I just came back from the hospital. My liver enzyme levels are 5 times the normal range. The doctor said, her voice suddenly choked up. It might affect my ability to have children in the future. I didn't know what to say, so I remained silent. Judy wiped her eyes. Leo might be prosecuted for pushing Tina's father. She turned to leave but paused. By the way, the school has revoked the graduation qualifications of Tina and several students involved in the incident, including Leo and Wendy. I watched Judy's retreating figure, noticeably thinner than I remembered. Back inside, I opened the file folder, which contained an incident report form requiring detailed records of whether I had participated in purchasing drugs, been involved in the altercation, etc. At the end, there was a bolded note. The information provided will serve as evidence for the police investigation. Please fill it out truthfully. I slowly completed the form. I hadn't purchased any drugs, hadn't participated in the conflict, and my knowledge of the incident was limited to messages in the class group chat. In the evening, I turned on the TV, and the local news was covering the incident. On the screen, the entrance of Tina's family company was sealed off, and law enforcement officers were carrying out boxes of documents. The reporter mentioned that the case had escalated into a criminal investigation, with the possibility of more people being involved. The TV switched to another scene, an interview outside the hospital. Tina sat in a wheelchair, her right leg in a cast, and her face covered with bandages, facing the camera. She cried pitifully. I really didn't know the medicine was problematic. I'm a victim, too, the reporter asked sharply. But you sold it to your classmates at high prices, making tens of thousands in profit. How do you explain that? Tina's sobbing suddenly stopped, her eyes darting nervously. That was just covering the costs. A roar suddenly came from off-screen. Liar! A bottle of mineral water flew into the frame, hitting Tina on the shoulder. The scene immediately became chaotic, and the cameraman hastily cut the signal. I turned off the TV and walked to the window. Night fell, and the city lights lit up one after another. This storm was getting bigger and bigger, a little beyond my expectations. I wonder if any of you now have even a hint of regret. My phone vibrated, interrupting my thoughts. The class group had a new message again. This time, a shared document link titled Tina's Crimes. After opening it, it detailed her various misdeeds, from freshman to senior year: cheating on exams, spreading rumors about classmates, stealing class funds. True and false, everything was there. The document concluded with, "This kind of scum doesn't deserve to live." I frowned and looked through the edit history, finding that at least a dozen people had participated in the modifications. The comment section was the most insane. Some suggested going to the hospital to demand an explanation. Some uploaded Tina's hospital room number, and some posted pictures of knives. This rhetoric has gone beyond anger and is teetering on the edge of danger. I turned off my phone and walked to the desk. In my past life, when they drove me to despair, did anyone speak up for me? Now that they're reaping what they sowed, why should I feign compassion? Outside the window, another bolt of lightning streaked across the night sky, followed by the rumble of distant thunder. An anonymous person posted Tina's detailed hospitalization information in the class group chat. Municipal Hospital East Wing, 7th floor, room 712, right leg fracture, mild concussion, expected hospitalization for 2 weeks. The information even included her daily examination schedule. At this moment, in room 712, the door was half open. Through the gap, Tina could be seen leaning against the headboard, her right leg in a cast, and suspended, with gauze patches on her face. She was looking down at her phone, brows furrowed. There were no flowers or get-well cards by the bedside, only her mother mechanically peeling an apple at the end of the hallway. Hushed voices came from the water dispenser room. 2 nurses chatting. That girl in room 712 is really pitiful. She had nightmares again last night, said the younger nurse. The older nurse curled her lip in disdain. Pitiful? The news said how many classmates she harmed by selling them drugs. This morning, another one of her classmates was admitted to room 715. Liver and kidney failure. Just 18 years old. Ward 715 was not far away. Its door closed, but the window revealing several figures inside. On the bench downstairs at the hospital, Wendy's mother was reading a medical report, her shoulders trembling uncontrollably. A corner of the report revealed several stark words. Poor prognosis. Requires long-term treatment. The July sun was scorching and blinding. The class group chat had hundreds more unread messages. A newly created anonymous group link was being repeatedly shared, titled Seeking Justice. I clicked the link, and there were already over 20 people in the group. The first pinned message was a photo of a lab report. All liver function indicators were in the red. The poster wrote, "The doctor said I can never drink alcohol again in my life." And that is still playing the victim. The replies below grew increasingly intense. My parents wasted over 10,000 yuan on tutoring fees for nothing. Wasn't her house sealed off? What about the money? Just paying compensation isn't enough. I want her to taste what it's like to wish for death. Scrolling further down, someone posted a photo of Tina's hospital room. Clearly taken, without permission. The latest messages were discussing specific action plans. Her mom won't be there tomorrow afternoon, and the nursing shift changes at 2 o'clock. There are no surveillance cameras in the east stairwell. I'll bring the rope. Who has a camera? I turned off my phone and stood at the bus stop waiting. The road was bustling, with traffic, and pedestrians hurried by, oblivious to the turbulent thoughts beneath a high school student's calm exterior. At that moment, the phone vibrated again. It was a notification from the anonymous group chat. Leo had sent a message. "Meet at the east gate of the hospital tomorrow at 2 p.m. Bring masks and hats. If you don't want to go, just ignore this." Immediately, 7 or 8 replies popped up. Some asked for specific plans, while others confirmed their attendance. The last message was from an unfamiliar account. "I brought pepper spray and zip ties. That is going to get what's coming to her." I closed the group chat and turned on the TV. The local news was following up on the high school student drug sales case. The screen showed the doors of Tina's family's health supplement company sealed shut, with official notices. The reporter stated the case had been transferred to the prosecutors, and Tina's father might face charges for producing and selling counterfeit drugs. It's reported that 5 of the affected students have been hospitalized, with 2 in critical condition. Experts say the drugs involved contain banned substances that could cause permanent liver and kidney damage. I switched channels to an old movie. The male lead said, "Revenge is like a snowball. Once it starts rolling, it can't be stopped." The night was deep, and I lay in bed listening to the occasional sound of cars passing by outside. What would happen at the hospital tomorrow at 2 o'clock in the afternoon? I turned over, no longer dwelling on the question. In my past life, when they had driven me to the brink, had anyone hesitated for even a moment? The phone screen lit up in the darkness, and the anonymous group chat had a new message. I glanced at it. It was Leo's final confirmation. "Proceed as planned tomorrow. Bring your gear, and don't register under your real name." I didn't reply, just set the phone to silent and placed it on the nightstand. Once the gears of revenge start turning, there's no stopping them. And me, I only needed to be a quiet observer. Outside the window, a pale moon hung in the sky like a cold, indifferent eye. At 1:45 p.m., I sat at my desk, the computer screen displaying the live surveillance feed from City Hospital. This wasn't hacking, just the publicly accessible security system in the hospital lobby, viewable by anyone through the visitor portal on the official website. In the footage, the East Wing inpatient lobby bustled with activity. I adjusted the angle slightly and spotted a few masked young people standing near the elevators, though deliberately spread out. Their familiar silhouettes and postures were unmistakable. Leo, Judy, and 3 other boys from our class. My phone screen lit up with the latest message from the anonymous group chat. "In position, awaiting signal." The sender was Leo. On the computer monitor, Leo checked his phone and gestured to the others. They entered the elevators in small groups, and someone pressed the button for the 7th floor. I switched to the 7th floor hallway camera. The image was slightly blurry, but clear enough to make out details. At 2:03, the elevator doors opened. Leo was the first to step out, glancing around before quickly heading toward room 712. The others followed closely, with Judy bringing up the rear, constantly looking back over her shoulder. I switched camera feeds to the surveillance footage outside room 712. Leo stopped at the door, pulled something from his backpack, and distributed it to the others. Then, he forcefully pushed the door open, and the 5 of them filed in one after another. There were no cameras inside the ward, but the corridor microphone picked up a sharp scream, followed by the dull thud of something heavy hitting the floor. A nurse rushed out from the duty station, looked toward room 712, hesitated for a moment, and then walked over. Just then, the door to room 712 suddenly swung open, and Judy dashed out to intercept the nurse, gesturing as if explaining something. The nurse frowned and shook her head. Judy abruptly grabbed the nurse's arm, and at the same time, Leo leaned out from the room, spraying something toward the nurse's face. The nurse covered her face and crouched down, while Leo and Judy quickly retreated into the ward and closed the door. I switched back to the lobby surveillance and saw the receptionist answering a phone call, looking panicked. 2 minutes later, 3 security guards rushed toward the elevator. At the same time, the window of room 712 suddenly opened, and a dark figure plummeted from the 7th floor, accompanied by the sound of shattering glass. The surveillance footage shook violently as the crowd began to stir. I quickly switched to the hospital's external cameras and saw Tina lying on the lawn, the cast on her right leg shattered, her face covered in blood. Her hospital gown was torn to shreds, and there were clear ligature marks on her wrists. Security guards and medical staff swarmed the scene. Some were shouting into walkie-talkies, while others began performing CPR. In the distance, the sound of sirens grew louder and closer. I turned off the surveillance screen and picked up my phone. The anonymous group chat was in chaos. What's going on? Weren't we just supposed to scare her? Leo, are you out of your mind? The police are here. Everyone delete the records. The last message was from Leo. She deserved it. Then the group was disbanded, and all records vanished. I deleted all related records and apps from my phone and walked to the window. The summer sun was still bright, with a few sparrows hopping on the power lines. In the distance, 3 police cars sped toward the municipal hospital. The TV automatically switched to breaking news. Latest update. A violent assault occurred at the municipal hospital where several teenagers broke into a ward and attacked a hospitalized girl. The victim fell from the 7th floor and is currently in critical condition. The screen cut to the hospital scene where the reporter spoke rapidly. According to sources, all suspects involved are students previously affected by the smart drug incident, and the girl who fell is Lynn, suspected of selling banned substances. In the evening, the local news website updated the progress of the incident. 5 students involved in the case have been detained by the police, 2 of whom are minors. The victim, Lynn, remains in the intensive care unit in critical condition. The police stated that this case will be merged with the earlier smart drug case for investigation, and more individuals involved may be held accountable. My phone vibrated. It was a school-wide notification. All senior high school students must attend an emergency meeting at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. Absence is not permitted. I knew the play was nearing its end. Tomorrow, the school would announce disciplinary actions. The police would disclose investigation updates, and I would continue to play the role of the unnoticed bystander. The desk lamp cast my shadow on the wall, making it appear unusually tall. So, this is the taste of revenge. No exhilaration as imagined, nor any guilt afterward. Just like watching a movie whose ending was already known. Outside the window, a gust of wind rustled the leaves. What will everything be like when the sun rises tomorrow? Tina is dead. The morning TV news announced the news in a calm tone. Lynn, the victim of yesterday's violent incident at the city hospital, died at 3 a.m. this morning after failed resuscitation due to severe injuries. The case has been upgraded from intentional injury to intentional homicide, and the 5 involved students will face more serious criminal charges. I turned off the TV and slowly chewed my breakfast bread. The bread was a bit dry, and I had to gulp down some water to swallow it. Outside the window, the sunlight was bright, a perfect day for a graduation ceremony. My phone kept vibrating, yet the class group chat remained eerily silent. While private messages exploded, I casually opened a few. All were panicked inquiries and statements distancing themselves. No one mentioned Tina, nor did anyone mourn. They only cared about whether they be implicated. I put on my school uniform and adjusted my collar in the mirror. The boy reflected in the glass had calm eyes, betraying no emotion. After all, I had faced life and death long before they did. 2 police cars were parked at the school gate, with uniformed officers checking student IDs. I handed mine over calmly, and after a brief glance, the officer let me through. The atmosphere in the auditorium was heavy. The principal stood on the podium, his face ashen. The usually chatty classmates were as quiet as a flock of quails today, each keeping their head down, afraid of being called out. Today was supposed to be our graduation ceremony. The principal's voice was hoarse, but due to the misconduct of certain students, it has now become a crisis management meeting. He scanned the room sternly. Students involved in yesterday's hospital incident, whether directly or indirectly, must report to the Academic Affairs Office immediately. The police have gathered sufficient evidence, and voluntary surrender may lead to reduced penalties. No one moved. The auditorium was so quiet that the hum of the air conditioning could be heard. The principal sighed and continued, "As for the other students, diplomas and records will be issued as usual. However, given the severity of this incident, the school has decided to cancel all group celebrations." After the meeting, the students hurriedly left as if fleeing a disaster. I leisurely packed my bag, noticing Wendy's seat was empty. I heard her condition worsened last night, and she was transferred to the provincial hospital. Jim, Mr. Lucas, the homeroom teacher, called out to me, "Come here for a moment." I followed him into the office, where two plainclothes police officers were sitting. The older one looked up at me. "Are you Jim from class 2? Grade 12? "Yes." I nodded. "We're investigating Tina's case, and have a few questions for you." He gestured for me to sit down. "What was your relationship with Tina like?" "Just regular classmates," I replied. "We didn't have any special interactions." The young officer flipped through his notebook. "Some classmates mentioned you never drank the herbal medicine Tina sold." "That's correct. I have a sensitive stomach, and don't dare take traditional medicine," I answered, without changing expression. "Especially this kind of herbal medicine, with unclear origins." And then, "Did you have any conflicts with Tina?" I shook my head. "No. I'm quite introverted, and rarely participate in class activities." The two police officers exchanged glances. The older one continued asking, "Do you know who was involved in the hospital incident yesterday?" "I don't know." I looked directly into his eyes. "I was at home yesterday preparing for university courses. They asked a few more questions, and I answered truthfully. I hadn't participated in any group discussions, hadn't been to the hospital, and my knowledge of the incident was limited to news reports." Every word was true except for the omission of the most crucial part. I had foreseen all of this long ago. The officer closed his notebook. "All right. Thank you for your cooperation. If you remember any important leads, feel free to contact us anytime." As I walked out of the office, the campus was nearly empty. I passed by the bulletin board, still adorned with the college entrance exam celebration notices. Sadly, I was the only one from our class who made the list. When I got home, an email was waiting in my inbox. I opened it. It was an admission letter from the provincial university, the school I had dreamed of attending in my previous life. I stared at the screen for a long time, then calmly shut down the computer. In the evening, the local news updated the case progress. 3 more students have turned themselves in for the hospital violent death case. According to police, the number of people involved may exceed 10. The main suspect, Wang, and others will face charges of intentional homicide, with possible sentences exceeding 10 years. The scene shifts to Wendy's mother lying on a bed in the provincial hospital, her face haggard. Our Wendy is also a victim. She now suffers from liver and kidney failure, and will need lifelong treatment. Those kids were too impulsive. I turned off the TV and walked to the balcony. Night had fallen, and the city lights twinkled like stars. In my past life, by this time, I was already lying cold in the morgue, while those who killed me were celebrating their graduation. Now, our positions have completely reversed. My phone vibrated. It was the last message in the class group chat. Judy had posted, "I'm turning myself in. Being Leo's lookout makes me an accomplice. 2. I hope the judge will be lenient since I'm still a minor." I deleted all the class-related messages and photos from my phone. Tomorrow, I will go to the provincial university to complete the enrollment procedures and start a brand new life. As for those who once hurt me, Leo will spend the best 10 years of his youth in prison. Wendy will struggle to survive with failing liver and kidneys, and the others involved in the violence will all have criminal records. Their life trajectories forever altered. Not a single drop of blood stains my hands. On the desk, the university admission letter glowed softly under the lamp. I carefully tucked it into the drawer and turned off the light. Outside the window, a bright moon hung high in the sky. Tomorrow will be another new day.